What do you think of the reports of police brutality at the Occupy protests that were across the country? Were you at any of the Occupy rallies where you're from?
No, we really didn't have here in Louisiana, other than New Orleans. There was no major Occupy protest. In New Orleans, I didn't have a chance to go at the time. I was extremely broke. It just could not go, and honestly, to me, the whole civil disobedience and camping out and doing all of that. When you're first getting into an idea and into a movement, that's what you do. But to me, I didn't feel like I needed to go out and be part of one of those protests. I wanted to, and I thought of going to either Occupy Houston or Occupy New Orleans. But for me, I had already gotten past that point of having to walk outside with a sign to say what I felt about stuff. Because I like to say what I believe, and what I feel doesn't fit on a sign. I mean, it fits on a web page. And so I didn't go to one of those rallies. I felt I'd moved beyond those, but I felt like I could do more with my limited resources and my time, and write about it instead. I have friends who were part of it, who took, who went to New York, who went to Oakland, and all of that other stuff. And as far as the police brutality part, it's absolutely true. I fully believe it. At one point, I was actually planning on becoming a cop. And when I was planning on becoming a police officer was right about the same time that Occupy started. And when I saw what the cops were doing, I felt like I couldn't be a part of that. And I couldn't be a police officer because it wasn't about serving and protecting the public anymore. It was about serving and protecting the interests of the 1%, of the people with money, by people who get paid very little for what they do, and who put their lives on the line every day under the false premise that they're serving the false premise that they're there to serve their community, when they're not. They're serving the interests of the wealthy for the most part. And then I see these guys who are police officers who now it's not about serving and protecting for them either. It's about, kicking people and cracking skulls and this kind of macho jock pent up frustration from when they were the nerdy kids like me in high school who got beat up, and now they get to go and that high school quarterback that used to treat them badly, who, they have that grudge against, now they can finally go and do something about it because they have a badge and a gun. And the police brutality part of it, that's what really, when I saw, the moment for me was when I saw the video of the NYPD police lieutenant pepper spraying that girl that they had kettled into that one little area. He probably had 80 to 100 pounds of weight on her. She was no threat. And he pepper sprayed her in the face. He could have easily, he could have easily handcuffed her. She was no threat. She would have given up. She would have let him handcuff her. But instead,
or the people at Berkeley where the police officer went down the road spraying like 20 people with mace, or where they made the human chain and the police officers, like a group of police officers, started hitting them in the stomach with police clubs.
Yeah, one of my friends was at I think it was Occupy Worcester, Massachusetts. He was beaten by police, offered no resistance, was thrown in jail, and all he did was make a human chain and lock in. That's it. And it used to be, and it wasn't too long ago, that police had no problem having to actually physically manhandle somebody to gain compliance. Not necessarily punching or kicking or anything like that, but actually getting physical with someone to gain compliance. And they've become kind of scared of putting their hands on anybody. Scared of getting a black eye, scared of, spraining a wrist or something like that to handle someone, and they've gone to the pepper spray and everything else. And when I saw that, and after my friend told me about being beaten by the police, that really kind of put everything into perspective for me.
How do you think just people who are not involved with the government, people who are not police, just regular everyday citizens thinking about Occupy Wall Street and saying things like, "Oh, just get a job, hippie," or the comments that Newt Gingrich made during one of the Republican debates where I believe his comment was, "Take a bath and get a job in that order," in response to the Occupy protests, and how very, very little attention was paid to it by any elected official.
Right. Well, and again, as I said, to elected officials, regardless of what party they're in, Occupy is a threat. But going back to what he said, at the time that he said that, I had 2 jobs, and I support Occupy. Of course, I couldn't be there, and I couldn't camp out and do whatever, but I had 2 jobs. I was working 55 hours a week. Obviously, I didn't have a job. I had 2 jobs. And a job that would require me to come home from one, take a shower, go to my other job, come home, and after that job was over, come home and take yet another shower. So I was doing, as Newt Gingrich said, I was getting a job twice. I was taking a shower twice. And I was still supporting Occupy Wall Street. So that is the kind of the stereotype that they were trying to push of Occupy. And when you can get that many people into a group and with television cameras, you're obviously in any group, you're going to be able to find people that say or do things that don't jive with the public perception of any one particular issue. You'll get someone who, like me, you can catch in a bad moment, who will drop an F-bomb or, extend a middle finger to the police, and then that's the perception that everybody gets. It's sort of a mental photograph, and if you can catch a mental photograph or a little photograph, an idea of how something should be painted at the infancy of the public exposure to it, then you can take that idea and just keep reinforcing it and reinforcing it and reinforcing it. So, of course, the media is going to go and they're going to find the person, the stereotypical college hippie, or how do I put it? The government leech, as they like to put it. The person they can paint as that, or the traveling gutter punk, who you see at your outside of a supermarket or on an interstate on-ramp, who's got the cardboard sign asking for money with the 2 dogs, or the kid who busks a banjo down on the corner of a tourist area. Just those people that they've people that they know are on the edges of society, and then they can convince people that have a 10-year-old car, that work 60 hours a week, that these people, you can't sympathize with these people because they don't do everything that you do, and they want to overthrow everything that you have. Don't pay attention to the fact that you're, $100,000 in debt, and for medical bills, and your car breaks down every other month. You just keep on working those 60 hours a week, and that trickle down is going to come to you. But don't sympathize with that guy there who's got the dreadlocks and the beads in his hair that we just showed on TV, because he's a dangerous radical that wants to infringe on your rights. And he wants to take away your football on Saturday afternoons, or whatever dog whistle they can try to use. So that's what they do to keep the public perception away. But if the public actually knew and actually turned off the TV for about, just maybe 15 minutes and actually read about what's going on and paid attention, they would have had a completely different opinion. The problem is that just people aren't willing to do that.